Kamron Bahani, quickly following up his Magnum Opus Open album that released last year. Kamron Bahani, he's back yet again with a 7-track album. Produced by Kanye West. I'm kidding, it wasn't produced by Kanye. So I was pretty indifferent towards Magnum Opus Open, but definitely thought that despite its lack of cohesion and substantive lyricism, it definitely showed a lot of technical prowess and ability from Kamron. It definitely showed that he had it in him. He had the capabilities to make something impressive. So I was curious to see what would happen in the future. And here we are with Menace. And with Menace, I definitely think this new release is the leaner, more direct, more concise of the two. But ultimately, after my 8 or 9 listens of this thing, I feel like I have come away kind of similarly to this album than I did with Magnum Opus Open. However, it definitely threw me off quite a bit with its opening track, I Made a Song For You. This track is probably the most uplifting thing I have heard from Kamron yet. However, for me personally, for my taste, I found the song incredibly cheesy. Personally, the hook, the instrumental, the guitar swing sample, it just felt very sugary, kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit personally, but I definitely appreciate the goal of this track, and I think it pulls off its intentions really effectively. It's pretty straightforward, it's not deep or anything, you know, it's just trying to be a very poppy, feel-good rap song. You know, its lyrics mostly deal with the idea of just ignoring anyone that tells you you can't do what you want to do, you can't do this, you can't do that, and he's just striving to push further and, you know, thrive for himself and all that. Very uplifting track, but sonically, it just doesn't really appeal to me, and I found the hook really underwhelming on this track too, and the little wow vocal shout thing that kind of pops in on the track just kind of made me wince a bit. I just thought it was a bit corny personally. However, the track Super is much more cold-blooded in tone. This track is much more just direct and in your face. It comes right after the opening track. This track features some really sharp snares, a pretty aggressive hard-nosed beat, has a synth arpeggio on it that sounds like it came straight out of a Sam Gellatin song, which is a good thing, you know, because if you didn't know, I kind of stand the fuck out of Sam Gellatin. There were some really pretty chords on this track too that made the song feel quite warm and comfortable despite its very harsh brutality and its just, you know, raw aggression, which is pretty cool. You know, I thought that was a nice way to sort of follow up the opening track since the first track was just so pleasant and feel good. I also kind of enjoyed the deep voice shrieks that pop in on this track too. My issues with the track lie again in its chorus. You think you're superficial but you're super official line is just kind of bad. And some of the singing from Kamron just didn't really do it for me either, but ultimately this was a pretty, you know, likable song. You know, it definitely wasn't that offensive or, you know, insulting to me or anything like that. It was solid. Not a favorite of mine, but definitely not a bad track to me. Energy is probably one of the standout cuts though. This is probably one of the stickiest hooks, if not the stickiest hook on the album. You know, at first I was a bit unsure of it, but I quickly found myself kind of humming along to this chorus when I wasn't even listening to the album, so that's a pretty good sign. The beat is one of the strongest on the album too, really heavy kicks on this track, and a really intoxicating, woozy main loop too, that just kind of puts me in a bit of a trance, and it fits the very kind of cold-blooded nature of this track as well. It sounds really nocturnal and moody, but some of the bars on this track were a bit shaky, like that line where he said like the pussy sounded like the ocean or something. Like, what the fuck? Like, the lines on this thing were a bit fillerish to me. There was one point where he was rapping about sort of staying on the grind, keeping his eyes on the throne, staying focused, and how he kind of questioned the loyalty and support of the people around him at one point too, which was kind of interesting. Ultimately, I did enjoy the song, but yeah, I guess just a few lines here or there. Some of the auto-tune on the track too wasn't really for me. Like the melancholic tone of the auto-tune felt slightly out of place, but generally I think it's a solid track. The track Lights On would have to be my least favorite though. I really didn't enjoy this song at all. Unfortunately, I think it's definitely the most seductive and sensual track on the album, and I think Kamron's singing on this track is actually really impressive, and the rapping is solid too. At one point he raps in what sounds like Spanish, which is kind of cool. A pretty fiery performance there. I'm not sure if it was Spanish, I could be wrong on that. Correct me if I am, but yeah, the reason I can't stand the song is because the instrumental is just a glorified remix of Lights On by FKA Twigs. Like literally, it samples FKA Twigs, but he just took the hook and looped it and just threw some drums on it, and it just seems like a really lazy, half-baked bit. Like, it's barely a sample flip. I'm not sure who the producers are or who to credit on that. I'm not sure if Kamron himself produced these tracks, but yeah, I just feel like this instrumental, it's literally just Lights On but with some drums on it. I don't really see how it really alters the track all that much, which just made the song feel a bit unexciting, and I really hated how Kamron sung like in time with FKA Twigs. No pun intended, by the way. But yeah, like during the hook, he would sort of sing in time with FKA Twigs on the Lights On sample, and they would kind of mimic the same melody, and they would kind of pair their voices up, and I thought it was just such an awkward clash. Really rubbed me the wrong way. I just couldn't get over it. That was okay. This track, a lot of it feels really forced to me. Personally, from the way he kind of overly accentuates the word flex, it's kind of hilarious. He says flex as if it's spelt like this or something, and it's kind of hilarious. I kind of like that, honestly. I think it was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the vocal inflections during the more melodic portions of the song feel really put on and a bit forced, and just kind of make me feel a bit uncomfortable. However, his flow switch-ups in the song are quite dizzying, make it really dynamic, keep it engaging, which is pretty cool. And the beat is one of the hardest too. Definitely enjoyed that. The song Eye Against Eye, a pretty cliche instrumental here, honestly, but it still does manage to carry a pretty provocative and intimidating tone, which is good. From those shrill synth tones to the really hard-nosed percussion, it's pretty hard. Again, though, his vocal cadences on this track just feel a bit forced to me. Some of the vocal experimentation he shoots for really did not work, for me at least, but I do appreciate, you know, that he's trying different things out, you know, that's cool. My favorite track, though, I think this is the best song on the album, has got to be the song Gellatin. I think this song is actually really great. The only problem is it's like 1 fucking minute. Man, this track was going wonderful. I think the consistent, steady, speedy flow from Kamron across the whole verse on this song was really impressive, especially considering that he kind of used a very similar rhyme scheme for the entirety of the verse. He kind of kept it up. He did a great job at showing his extensive vocabulary on this track as well. I think this song is proof that Kamron absolutely has it in him to make something that is really impressive on a technical level. It's just when it comes to creativity, artistic vision, I feel like there's not much here. Like, there's not really much of a compelling character to Kamron Bahani, in my opinion, and I don't really think it's shooting for that a lot of the time. This is mostly just trying to be very aggressive, inoffensive, to the point, direct, and catchy, and shit like that. Like, that seems to be the goal for most of these tracks. This is what I get from it, at least. But Gellatin, I think, is a song that plays to all of his strengths as an artist, as a musician. And I think the piano sample on the beat too was wonderful. The only thing I didn't like about the track, I guess, would be the make it wiggle like gelatin thing at the end or something. That was kind of corny. If I had to pinpoint anything I dislike about Gellatin, that would be it. That and the fact that it's too short. Ultimately though, yeah, I think this album proves that Kamron's weakest link is his inability to present a truly engaging voice. And it just doesn't really pull me in much, and it just kind of leaves me just feeling a bit indifferent on whether or not I really enjoyed the experience like that. Like sure, like this album never really shoots beyond just like a fun, speedy flow or like a hard, aggressive, catchy beat. You know, my enjoyment never really goes beyond that, and oftentimes it just totally fails to hit that. Like musically, sonically, there's nothing really majorly outstanding to me about the sound of this album. I think there's definitely diversity across its track list, but I would hesitate to say that this is a really like different or innovative, you know, body of work. But I definitely think there are likable qualities to it. I think your average rap fan would probably find something to really appreciate here, so I would suggest giving it a try. But for me, for my enjoyment, I think the score that would best summarize it would be a 5. Personally, I feel like I'm a little bit on the fence with this. I think there were a pretty equal level of moments that really excited me on this thing when compared to the moments that aggravated me. I think there's a pretty solid, even balance between those moments. But again, I do think Kamron clearly has quite a bit of technical skill and has the capability to pull off something impressive. I just feel like the ambition and the artistic vision isn't quite there yet. But yeah, that's just how I'm feeling personally. More power to Kamron as a musician. I can't wait to see what happens in the future. That's the review. Cool. Thank you very much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. Sick. Yeah, bye.